What are the three stocks that are the best artificial intelligence stocks? Well, technically there's four of them. So I'm just going to run down the list of them right now. First, I've got Alphabet. Alphabet is a search-based platform. You guys know this, but they're also developing Gemini, which is looking pretty good by the second. Basically, they think that they're competitive and they'll keep developing their, language model and integrate it into their products so that they don't become disrupted or left behind in the artificial intelligence race. And we are talking about Alphabet. Alphabet has a great track record of generating shareholder value. So if you had to pick big tech, Alphabet is the first one. Second stock right now is Meta. Meta at around 1.6 trillion, 1.8 trillion. It's big tech still, and they seem to be doing really, really good. The main reason why it's really, really good is because they had a huge run recently. They have their open source AI, which brings in the developer community. I think for the most part, their language model is very, very compelling. Following that, I like Nvidia right now. So Nvidia is the third stock. The main reason why Nvidia is the third stock is because they're going to make graphics cards. Okay? And because they design the chips and they design the graphics cards, they're going to make the bulk of the money by selling the graphics cards that actually develop these language models, which I would recommend you guys to understand language models and the pricing and how this all happened. Watch my AI artificial intelligence video. But okay, it seems like Silicon Valley is pulling really far ahead when it comes to these. We got Llama, we got Gemini, and then we got OpenAI's ChatGPT. That seems like the three that seems to be dominating the market right now. And those three are very, very compelling. I like Llama, I like the Gemini theory, I like the ChatGPT. Those are the three-legged horses right now. And the market theory is that there's going to be first place, second place, and third place. That's the general branding theory or marketing theory. You got Coca-Cola, you got Pepsi, and then, third place is debatable in the beverage industry. Well, you can kind of look at it like that. If you look at it, it's usually in technology, it's a three-legged horse race. And when I look at the three musketeers that I would be betting on right now, I'm betting on OpenAI. Because I'm rich, I can probably get the shares for OpenAI in the private market from someone else that's reputable enough to sell me shares. When it pertains to Alphabet, I'm also going to buy up shares because I do believe that their Llama's from Meta, by the way. Okay, so I think it's Llama, Gemini, and ChatGPT. So just say LGC is what I'm saying. Let's use a fucking acronym because honestly, we could use more of those, right? So Llama, Gemini, ChatGPT, or ChatGPT, Llama, Gemini. CLG then. But basically, I think it's going to be a three-legged race here, from here on out, probably. And they're going to spend the bulk of the money to figure out if they can hyperscale AI and create, because they've already broke the Turing test. So, the Turing test being, can you convince somebody with 100 IQ that you're a normal human being? So they're saying that they got through the Turing test, but now they're talking about can it actually do cognitive things very well. And they're probably privately testing this in various lab-like formats right now to figure out how much they can advance the artificial intelligence to be as like a humanoid as possible. So let's see how well that goes, whether you can engineer something. And I think Alphabet is willing to spend, $100 billion, even $1 trillion, just to stay in the artificial intelligence game. And because they make so much money, I'm more than certain they're willing to scale up the investment to a point that's necessary to stay in the three-legged musketeer type of race that usually happens around Silicon Valley. Like for example, even in cryptocurrency, it's like you just notice it right out the gate. It's Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then number 3 is debatable, and even in the cryptocurrency market right now. Now, what is the 3rd largest cryptocurrency, in fact? Let me see. This number 3 place fluctuates a lot. So you really want to capture your top 3 positions in a market as fast as possible. And predictably so, US dollar Tether is the 3rd largest crypto asset. Basically, a dollarized version of cryptocurrency. Tons of scandals about it, blah, 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 but you know, US dollar Tether is just unavoidable, apparently. So whether you like it or hate it, people like digital dollar. And it makes sense. You need to hold on to fiat in a digital way so you can trade the crypto market correctly. So, you know, US dollar Tether is number 3. Has it always been that way? No, it has not. In fact, number 3 in the cryptocurrency market fluctuates all the time. And it's why I often say you want to stay ahead and you want to invest and stick to fundamentals. Like, you know, Bitcoin just outright dominates. Bitcoin just outright wrecks everybody right now at $1.26 trillion because it is the sole source of burning physical assets to generate you know, a physical currency. You know, like it is kind of like a gold stamp where it's like people have to run hardware to pull stuff out of the earth, and we virtually do the same thing by burning graphics cards, which is a similar process. Think about it. Ethereum doesn't work on a burning process of hardware anymore because you can stake things. Well, any central bank can just print money and then stake Ethereum, because a central bank like Russia that really needs money right now is going to keep on printing out the Russian ruble, and they're going to convert it into Ethereum, dump the Ethereum to go get some US. Of course, the Federal Reserve can do the same thing and hold Bitcoin in reserve and start printing out US dollars by just inserting code, and there's more dollars in the system, and we're going to buy Bitcoin with our fiat currency and have Bitcoin in reserve. And I think that if the Federal Reserve is serious about transitioning to a digital dollar, then they have to hold on to Bitcoin as a physical reserve. That's why I'm an advocate of it, because it's going to necessitate the Federal Reserve to hold on to the gold standard of currency in the virtual sense, Bitcoin, rather than physical gold. Because in this dollarized transition to digital currency, where you can take currency that's your dollar and physically transfer it to a private ledger or to a public ledger, once the Federal Reserve recognizes that as having a distinctive monetary value, they will have no choice but to hold on to Bitcoin as reserve. Much like I have the theory of the Russian central bank printing out currency and using it to buy up Ethereum on the open market to then dump the Ethereum into a public market currency like the dollar to purchase things. And they probably do the same thing with Ethereum as they continue to use their printed rubles to buy the Ethereum and run the scheme of being able to run through the Russian crypto network. I notice these type of things. On the Bitcoin side of the spectrum, it's likely that the Bitcoin originator comes from the United States rather than the Russians, the Russian side of the Federation. The reality, though, is, haven't you seen the drop of Ethereum lately? Because of proof of stake. Because of proof of stake, a central bank that's willing to buy up more of a currency than the natural occurrence of the currency will ultimately control more and more of that currency. It is likely that the reason why Ethereum is dropping so much is that it seems like there's a very reliant government on the other side of the world leveraging Ethereum so it can continue to launder its money through the system that way. Likewise, the US government kind of does something similarly whenever it confiscates Bitcoin. The origin of Bitcoin is in the United States, so they naturally assume that they can use it as a means of reserve, and the United States tends to use Bitcoin that way. In the transition to becoming a centrally based digital currency as a dollar, they're likely to make Bitcoin a mandatory asset that it holds onto as a reserve to help balance out the value of just having digital dollars around, because it's instantaneously transferable between each other and it's a common currency in the digital economy. So that transition is about to happen here very soon, and that's why Bitcoin is going to reach the next leg up in its rally, probably as the central bank makes digital dollar a reality, and every dollar becomes much like digital tether. And now you're able to use the dollar like tether through your bank account ledger. So it'll eventually happen. It's just a matter of how will they let that happen? How will the banks relinquish control to being able to integrate into the openly centralized or decentralized cryptocurrency network that exists? Now, all they have to do is bridge it, but the central bank, the Federal Reserve, has to approve it. Once that happens, it's a wrap. The central bank's going to dump gold because gold is trash in the new universe, and it's going to buy up a crap load of Bitcoin as the reserve currency, because naturally you have to burn a commodity that's very expensive, graphics cards and accelerators and silicon, in order to sustain the network velocity. Therefore, you're always going to have like a sort of mining cost effect that's actually real and tangible. So you're going to have to use up data center resources at large scale to sustain the Bitcoin network, to sustain the value of the Bitcoin network. But because the Bitcoin protocol is the foundation protocol of the entire cryptocurrency network and is a commonly standardized currency that's thoroughly established, it's probably going to retain way more value than Ethereum. And right now, Ethereum has basically dropped to about, I don't know, second place, but a wide margin, and it's dropped considerably. Because, you know, I think when Ethereum was a proof of work model, it required other extreme cost measures, like the actual cost of mining, to be taken into consideration. The cost of actually mining currency with graphics cards. Because graphics cards became more valuable due to the invention of the Turing and the AI and the mass transition to AI. Now all of a sudden, these graphics cards just went way up in value on a consumer basis. So now any type of accelerator or, you know, custom silicon, it gets way more expensive because, you know, there's a company out there or two buying up all the graphics cards so that they can finally achieve the sentient AI universe that they're dreaming up or whatever. So because of that, the value of graphics cards went up and the value of Ethereum became distorted because of the ruble trade. Pair that with the fact that the central bank is prepping up to become a digitalized currency, with the banks eventually going full digital currency, meaning that they can now recognize and transfer digital currencies directly off their bank ledgers. And basically that means that as soon as you can open up your Wells Fargo account and transfer your digital dollar into digital Bitcoin and vice versa, it's a wrap. Coinbase might turn into trash at that moment, or it might become the most centralized exchange that handles even the banks. The bank ledgers as well. So, you know, it's one or the other, but basically the banks will become integrated with the digital currency as soon as the central bank becomes integrated with the digital currency. When they make that transition, the value of Bitcoin is going to go up serendipitously to all-time new radical highs, like maybe even 1 million to about $10 million per Bitcoin. That will be the triggering event. That will be the revolutionary event where everyone realizes that you're just going to have a digital dollar in your own normalized financial account as well. And everything goes digital currency, including the central banks. So that's the next leg up. And Ethereum is falling and sinking in second place like freaking crazy right now. It's like a $300 billion coin, but staking can be a failure of a model. A central bank could exploit it. And it seems like central banks are exploiting it right now due to the conditions of war. Notice the effects of how it's happening on, how bad of an effect it's having on Ethereum right now. So serendipitously enough, you know, the stability of Bitcoin fundamentals is the stability of Bitcoin fundamentals, guys. And that's why Bitcoin is worth $1.2 trillion. It seems to hold steady at around 63,000 to about 65,000. Bulls and bears have conviction, but the bull seems to be controlling the Bitcoin market right now, basically, because basically it seems to be consolidating and it wants to probably leg up and go a lot higher, because there's a lot of reasons why Bitcoin can continue to go a lot higher. There's a lot more potential for it to expand. Not to mention just that, we're also talking about the fact of AI, right? AI is going to trigger the cost of graphics cards to go up. Therefore, the mining cost of Bitcoin is going to go up drastically. Therefore, the price of Bitcoin has to go up drastically because the cost of the commodity inputs went up drastically, guys. That's why Bitcoin is going to go up. In the case of Ethereum, that might not be the case anymore because with the case of Ethereum, the staking protocol is prone to a central bank's willingness to print and buy currency, to buy up the currency, to try and control the currency. And basically a lot of Russians control a lot of Ethereum because, again, the founder of the freaking Ethereum protocol is a Russian, and in the early distribution events of Ethereum, it mostly went out to Russians. In the early days of Ethereum, most of the build-out, the developer team was basically Russian. So all the early coins and the founder coins went out to a bunch of Russians, guys. So the origin of how they're going to print and run currency schemes through the Ethereum protocol is obviously noted, and there's nothing that can actually be done about it at the same time. It's the money launderer of Russia is what I call it. And I'll call you out for it. I don't go, fuck, Vitalik Buterin. I don't care. That makes your little fucking heart go, oh shit. Yeah, you should be scared, little bitch. Because your price is dropping. See what happens here when in conditions of desperate need for money and stuff like that. Just how willing Moscow is just like print the ruble and buy the fucking Ethereum from the Russian population. And then print so much ruble in relation to the Ethereum price that there's an arbitrage event for them to make money off of selling the Ethereum to us theoretically, but in reality, we might just be overbidding the price of Ethereum with the ruble to a point where it distorts the property market in Russia, and it's likely that a lot of Ethereum holders in Russia are becoming property barons and buying alternate assets in Russia as the price of those assets collapse. But Ethereum still is also collapsing, but you know the oligarchs of Russia are probably thinking, hey, look, I can just use my fake Russian ruble and buy up Ethereum right now. You guys get the gist of that, right? So that's number 2 place. Number 3 is dollar tether. You guys notice that? It's Federal Reserve coin. Yeah, that's a real thing. That could go all the way up to the number 1 place, potentially, or number 2. But I think Ethereum is going to drop because Ethereum is a protocol that mostly has its hinges and its currency relation with the Russian-based currency ruble and the Russian banking system as well. So, you know, if you look at it, US banks like the use of Bitcoin and it's going to turn into Ethereum is going to be used heavily by the Russian-based financial system. And then in between that, you're going to have the normalized, just the dollar currency version of cryptocurrency. And, you know, real fiat currency is going to become a bigger portion of the total amount of currencies naturally because the citizen recognizes that that's their national currency. So the digital currency version of the dollar is probably going to dwarf the value of Bitcoin, but because the dollar becomes fully digital, at the same time, it's going to trigger a lot of demand and access to Bitcoin. And that's what's going to cause Bitcoin to become extremely valuable, like up to the cost of millions of dollars per coin. So we're in a point right now where you can buy Bitcoin and just hold on to it. You can buy artificial intelligence stocks and just hold on to it for the long-term future. And you just ride that. Ignore the stupid ass pundits talking about what? Index funds. Index funds, really? Just buy artificial intelligence, buy cryptocurrencies, and you'll probably like make way more money than everyone else right now. Seriously. The follow on to the graphics cards though, like the graphics card maker and the Nvidia. You know, just focus on Nvidia and Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing. Because Nvidia is a great stock right now because of the fact that you're going to make all that money selling all those graphics cards to all the cryptocurrency miners, to all the freaking, you know, to all those freaking people out there that need graphics cards for whatever reason. They're going to be designing them, building them, shipping them to data centers, selling them to individual consumers, and they're making a crap load of money right now. And the price has exploded for graphics cards. The high-end graphics card of a 2090 is like $2,000 graphics card. You know, in the 2005s, I remember a time where the high-end 90 series or 80 series graphics cards would sell for about $600. And those days are long gone, guys. Inflation is real, and these prices are sticky right now, and they're gonna get more expensive. And anyone tells you otherwise is delusional. It's delusional. The cost of your computer is gonna inflate way more than the cost of everything else in the economy, because the value of computing is more valuable than a lot of other things, and people will not give up the marginal utility of computing and devices in relation to other necessities in life if it's functional for their life, really. And then the reality is that graphics cards get really scarce and expensive in the future as well, because there's so many use cases for them. That's why the pricing that hinges on the Bitcoin tied to hardware burn, paired with the fact that it'll be linked to the US dollar, makes me very confident that there's going to be a humongous boost in the value of Bitcoin, because the US government is going to recognize Bitcoin because Bitcoin originated in the USA, the origin of it somewhere. And a lot of the people that are the founders of Bitcoin, or the people that created Bitcoin, or early participants, are in the United States. That's why there's a lot of Bitcoin ownership over here in the United States. That's why it's the United States government will likely hold on to it as the reserve coin. More so than all the other coins, because it's a part of like a functional like democracy. Got to get ahead of the communist, got to get ahead of China and Russia. So chances are the United States government is going to be one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin. And each time you notice that they confiscate Bitcoin from terrorists and different group activity groups, the FBI gets all giddy and shit as they run away with $400 million worth of Bitcoin and shit and they report it to the news. We got more Bitcoin. They sold it off in an auction. I don't believe them. I believe that they're going to hold on to that Bitcoin, and the Federal Reserve is going to buy it off the Treasury auction and say, hey, each time you guys confiscate Bitcoins, we'll print out currency from the Federal Reserve and buy that Bitcoin, and we'll store it over here in the Federal Reserve. So eventually, you know, good old Jerome Powell is going to be like, dude, I'm not going to, each time you guys confiscate Bitcoin, I'm going to be the one that buys it in the auction because I have the most money. I'm Uncle fucking Sam, and I'm going to buy that and hold on to it because it's a strategic resource of the US government and its Federal Reserve. And that's why I think what's happening here is that the US government recognizes Bitcoin, and the Russian Federation has no choice but to recognize Ethereum as its de facto digital native currency. And it'll probably hold on to Ethereum as its reserve and play up its metrics just to placate the founder that's Russian, of Russian origin and all this crap, that just basically imitated Bitcoin and then eventually placated to the needs of the Russian oligarch, basically. And that's the story of Ethereum, basically, in a nutshell. It'll be valuable, but just nowhere near as valuable as Bitcoin. You're going to see something like that in the artificial intelligence race. Since we're early, it's hard to tell who's going to be the most dominant, but I think the earliest player is usually the one that ends up leading. So ChatGPT is probably going to be number one. And a toss-up between Llama 3 and Gemini right now. And I think Gemini will do better because I think Alphabet will feel that existential threat to their business model, so they're going to invest way more money than Meta will. And because Alphabet has, you know, a much broader and diversified business model where it can suck up more money to then put into AI development, and then they just hold on to so much money. Like they bank vault physical dollars like the Federal Reserve Bank somehow over there at Alphabet. So any opportunity they can save money, they save that money and hold it in their balance sheet. They're so good at saving money, it's cheesy. I've never seen any company this good at fucking saving money. It's ridiculous. But they hold on to that money knowing that in a rainy day, they're going to be able to like turn around and be like, I'm going to spend, AI competition. I have like $300 billion laying around, you know? Like, you know what? It's just like an existential crisis all of a sudden. Okay, look, I'm going to spend more money than all of you guys then. And they likely will. That's why I'm thinking like, you know, maybe they'll be like number two. Because they already own search, and then they feel that existential threat to their business model, so they're likely to overinvest. And that's a good thing. If you overinvest, you have a chance of getting ahead of everybody at least, because you can always spend more money in a position like that, you know? You can always spend more money to solve your problems when you're that rich, you know? So that's why I'm thinking number two, you know, and number three is the fact that Meta's open source. So the open source protocol might not always develop as quicker as a private protocol where a company's running in overdrive mode to figure out a way to make money off of something while concurrently feeling the threat of their business model. And it's a really big company, and I don't think they're going to sit around and just be like, hey, look, take our lunch away from us. AI, I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to try and spend all the money they possibly can to develop the resource effectively. And they don't even and then throw as many people at it as possible so that they can figure out a way to do it. You know, and then increasingly enough, like, you know, like Meta's going to try really hard, and they're going to be the guy that might have to like squeeze in through the door whichever way it freaking can, but they're going to do it because they want to be in that race. And they know that, you know, they own a humongous share of the advertising market, and they want to play that game with Google. But, you know, Google's kind of like the OG. And I honestly feel like they also have probably like a more corporate business sense of an environment maybe. But, you know, Mark Zuckerberg has a chance of like maybe pulling ahead. But maybe Alphabet is just like, no. Like, we have hundreds of billions of dollars, and we have a bigger business empire than you, Mark Zuckerberg. Get the hell out of here. We're going to take that AI away from you. Like, get the fuck away, hoodie fucker. You know, we got this. And they're going to be like, oh shit, they're going to spend a couple $100 billion. Oh no. It's like, are you willing to spend that amount of money? Because they're the owners of searching for data. You think they're going to let another company out-brand them, out-advertise the Gemini opportunity? Oh, hell no. I think they're going to go after it with all the money they got. The more and more paranoid they get, the more paranoid I'm going to make you guys get. The fact of the matter is that the more paranoid they're going to get, because let me tell you, I just gave that Bitcoin versus Ethereum. Like, Alphabet has to become the number 2 player, because if they don't, they're going to get thrown by the wayside. Remember, it's Samsung and then Apple. And right now, ChatGPT has its first mover advantage, the biggest branding advantage, and the most knowledge in the area, because they've been working on it stealthily as a startup and built up tremendous scale around artificial intelligence in general. So Sam Altman might be ahead of the game even more than all the engineers at Google. He could be that talented, or Alphabet just goes guns blazing saying, fuck it, I'm going to spend a couple $100 billion to figure this out and turn this into the NASA expedition of Alphabet. And that means all investments in all other areas are not a priority right now. I'm going to spend all my money on artificial intelligence and beat you at it. And if that becomes the case, it could be like a two-legged race with Mark Zuckerberg being like, hey, dude, I have money, and he starts throwing money at it, and he starts getting into the game. Much like the Federal Reserve is kind of late, trying to become number 3, you know, in the cryptocurrency game. It's figuring it out. I think Meta is going to be like, you know, it could be the total opposite. That's why I'm saying you should invest into Alphabet and Meta platforms, because they both have an actual real shot at taking over the number 2 position right now. Number 2 position is up for grabs, because you're not Sam Altman, and I don't think Sam Altman's going to sell out at $100 billion. You're so fucking mighty fucking rich at that point as a company and as a founder, and your brain is more valuable than a lot of other brains on planet Earth. They're going to protect that at the very minimum, you know. So I think I'm going to bet on the fact that Sam Altman might just hold on to the number 1 position, and it's going to be an all-out free-for-all among the tech giants to figure out how they can jostle for the number 2 position. And I'm thinking Alphabet, feeling that existential crisis, having the balance sheet to back it up, having the engineers to back it up, but also having a search-based business model that can be usurped by an AI business model, subscription model. They have to make Gemini successful. It's about as important as Gmail or having YouTube right now. The Gemini product has to win. Like, it has to succeed. If it does not, you fall by number 3 position. In Silicon Valley, that's like going to the level of who the hell's number 3? Skechers when compared to Nike and fucking, Adidas? Like, wait, you know, Under Armour? Like, who's the number 3 position in the market? You cannot fall to the number 3 position. Especially because you own a search monopoly. That is not an acceptable condition right now. You understand that, and I think they do. It's a real wake-up call. It's like being compared to like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and what's the third product? Maybe Dr. Pepper, maybe 7-Up, maybe 7-Eleven, and it all whittles down in terms of recognition and stuff like that. So Alphabet is probably going to try its best So you still invest into Alphabet knowing that they have a very diversified business model, but you also have to invest into Meta platforms because they have a very well thought out open source business model around artificial intelligence, and they have a lot of engineering talent. They really do have a lot of engineering talent over at Facebook. You might not like Facebook, you might not like their corporate culture and how they hire their employees and who the losers are that you grow up in college, end up working at Facebook. Oh, that fucking loser went to go work at fucking Facebook. Huh, fuck that guy. But I'm telling you, they have it. They have a lot of engineering talent at Facebook, at Meta. And I wouldn't put it behind you to say, hey, they could jostle that number 2 position and really fight for it because it's important. I think ChatGPT has really dominated the segment, being the founder of the segment, having the founder mind, Sam Altman, and his opinion and his position matters more than anybody else because everybody else is a poser. It's like comparing like Satoshi or Nakamoto or something to like, you know, everybody else in relation to cryptocurrency. Or Steve Jobs when it comes down to like, you know, the personal computer versus Bill Gates. Yeah, like there's usually just 2 players in the segment that really dominate, and the third guy is just trying to squeeze in and kind of hold on to that number 3 position as best as they can because everybody else wants to be number 3, you know? And that's where you have to be very careful here. Now, another thing I like besides the Nvidia, Facebook, Alphabet, Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing, everybody. Well, let's talk about Taiwan. Taiwan is a country that's very fragile right now. I do see the geopolitical risk, obviously. That's the key risk of the Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing trade, no doubt about it. China can implode, causing the entire geopolitical region to turn unstable, and the entire manufacturing base of the semiconductor industry goes up in total smokes. That's a key risk factor. I'm aware of that. But let's say it doesn't play out that way. Asia turns out to be a peaceful world, and you can buy a call option on global, you know, stability in the Asia-Pacific theater, at least, for the next 5 years. Well, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing owns a huge segment of the global add-in board manufacturing market. They have the best fabs, and they're ahead of everybody else, ahead of Samsung. They're ahead of Intel by 1.5 miles. So they're the ones that are making all the graphics cards for all the graphics card makers, for all the key players in the market. They dominate the market so significantly, and then Samsung's number 2. And Intel kind of might not exist at number 3, but that's what I'm saying. You don't want to be the third musketeer, ever. Because the reality is, Intel is not the third musketeer anymore. The reality is, in the semiconductor market, it's Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, no, it's Nvidia, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, and then you have this unknown chip company called Broadcom. Broadcom is the 3rd largest semiconductor company. As you know, and then after that, I think it's Advanced Micro Devices, and Intel is technically the 5th largest semiconductor company at number 5. That's how much they failed. So Intel went by the wayside, basically. And Nvidia is way, way, way ahead in the market in terms of valuation, revenue, performance, and dominance right now. And they're partnered up with Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, and they always get their graphics cards ahead of everybody else printed out. They get to make the money. They get to make the money off of everything, basically. It's like number 4, and then so you guys get what I'm saying. You can fall by the wayside. That's why I think Alphabet is going to do everything it can to jostle number 2 position away or 4th, or do whatever it can using all the money it has in its bank account, and it's preoccupied. Then there's going to be Facebook doing something similar, but it'll probably jostle around and still be like very happy if you can just hold on to the number 3 position in the United States or across the world. You know, I'm really feeling that that's likely how this all plays out. And that's why I'm telling you guys to invest into Alphabet, Nvidia, and Meta platforms. And then also Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, guys. Biggest manufacturer, makes all the graphics cards. As long as the geopolitical risk doesn't play out, it's a huge call option on artificial intelligence, much like Nvidia, and it's a much cheaper company at an $800 billion market cap. So personally, if I had to buy a call option, I'd buy one on the TSM, because I think Xi Jinping won't play into war. I think Kim Jong-un won't necessarily shoot the nukes anytime soon. And you know, China and Korea and South Korea and Japan will kind of play it cool as they let the Russians go and die together with the Ukrainians for the time being. You know, I think that's the scenario we're looking at. If I'm wrong, Taiwan could easily, TSM could implode in our face, and they're stuck with the Arizona fab. Like, oh dear Lord, maybe you guys should make more fabs in the USA. Because if that thing plays out wrong, uh-oh, there goes your monopoly out of nowhere. You know, like, it's a very competitive world. Be very careful, guys. I'm out. That's the rest of this segment.